Hello and welcome to java9s.com. I'm Srinivas. Today we're going to look at the Spring framework. I'm going to tell you something about the Spring framework, which is invented by Rod Johnson in the year 2003. It's an open source framework and it has got wide popularity among the Java community in terms of application development of enterprise applications and whatever it is. Spring gives you a wonderful a feature known as dependency injection. Previously it was known as inversion of control. Spring framework also contributes for the loose coupling, and also it solves a lot of problems in terms of using the JDE modules like JDBC, JMS, JMax, JCA, and also it also contributes to using some of the modules like some of the frameworks like plugging in with Hibernate, like ORM frameworks like iBatis and Top Links and etc. So let us see how really Spring contributes to loose coupling and how dependency injection is going to be useful in terms of application development. I'm just going to explain you with an example. Here you can see this example over here in the slide. I have a class known as Traveler and I have another class known as Car. And you pretty well know that objects collaborate between each other to use one of its behaviors, each other's behaviors and properties to make an application run. And then we need instances of those classes to make the objects, and obviously we use new operator to do that. Over here you can see this Traveler is particularly using this Car class over here, where it is using a new operator exclusively to create an instance of Car. So it's very clear that the moment something like when you replace the Car class with some other class, obviously this part of the code is going to get affected. So that means say for example you're going to introduce an aeroplane, or you're going to introduce a motorbike class instead of a car class. Obviously the both on the reference side and also on both on the object creation side, like new car, is also going to change. So let us see how we are going to modify this code to little bit improvement, where I'm just introducing a new interface out here known as vehicle, and this car is going to implement the vehicle interface, which says that a move method has to be implemented, which is in the vehicle interface. As you can see, what improvement we can get into the code is now instead of referring, the reference is not of type car, we are referring it within vehicle v. That means even though the implementation class like car would change, the reference side is not going to get affected, but still on the new operator side we need to refer to a concrete class. From this code we cannot escape. That means still we are not really free from the using the concrete classes from our from the accessing class side. So we are in we are tightly coupled with the car class, obviously. So Spring comes for the rescue, where when you configure the concrete classes with the Spring configuration file, and all you need to do is only you refer that object with an interface type. Let us see the next example how I can use the Spring framework to solve this problem. You can see this car class. In this place I'm initializing the Spring framework's container over here using an application context, which says where my Spring configuration file is. This is my Spring configuration file. And you can see this place which I have not at all used a new operator, but still I would get a car object here. On the reference side you can see this vehicle v, and on this side I'm telling that I'm asking the Spring context. CTX is nothing but application context object, which knows what objects have to be created when I ask with a particular ID. So I'm here asking with using a method known as getBean of vehicle, and about this vehicle I have configured it in the spring.xml, where when I call with a getBean of vehicle, this Spring container has to return an object of type car. So I'm here I don't have any trace of using an a concrete class inside this code, even though tomorrow my car class is going to change and I'm going to introduce a new class known as motorbike or an aeroplane. Obviously I can change simply here, instead of car I can write anything like aeroplane, or something like anything like a motorbike or something like that. So this is the biggest advantage in terms of loose coupling, where objects are totally free from each other and we don't have any dependencies. That means all you need to do is just change the configuration file and the wiring is just going to be maintained by the Spring framework. So let us see how what is the definition of Spring framework right now. They say it is a Spring is a lightweight dependency injection and aspect oriented container and framework. So as a container, Spring takes the responsibility of creating the objects and managing the wiring between those objects, whereas as a framework it solves some of the problems in solving the complexity of using the JDBC API and the JMS API, JCA and JMX, and also it also contributes in terms of using some of the ORM frameworks like Hibernate, IBAD. Let us see an example of how dependency injection can be implemented using the Spring framework. I would like to explain this with an example here. I have a car class and I have a wheel class here, and you can see this a car actually is car's behavior move method is actually dependent on wheels rotate method. So that means car is dependent on wheel object. So here we are actually initializing the wheel reference with a new wheel over here in the class, so that whenever you create a car object, automatically a wheel object will also be requested, and then the wheel object will be used to in accessing the rotate method. So obviously there is a direct dependency for the car on the wheel object. So when there is no wheel object, we are going to have an effect on the car class side also, where we need to change that wheel W is equal to new wheel or something like that. And here I'm going to improve this code in terms of introducing a new interface. So when you look at the kind of scenario here, in earlier, before Spring framework was introduced, it was a car which is requesting for a wheel object for itself using a new operator. So that means car is asking to obtain a wheel object, whereas with the Spring framework, with the configuration itself, Spring will understand that car needs a wheel object for its working of full functionality. So Spring will inject a new wheel object into it and then use this car object to the application. So if you go ahead to see how we can improve this one, I'm just avoiding the new operator here in creating the a wheel, and I have defined the wheel as an interface here, and here my implementation of this wheel will be Bridgestone. So class Bridgestone implements wheel. So Bridgestone is my concrete implementation of the wheel interface, and you can see this I have introduced a getter method and I have introduced a setter method here. So and also I have the void move method automatically. So by where we are actually referring the we're going to refer the object with the interface type, and in the configuration I have declared a car as a separate bean, and we know that there is a property in car as a wheel, and I'm saying for this property is the wheel, and what is the reference type is a wheel. So this reference will be mapped to another bean ID with the wheel, and we know that this concrete class is going to be Bridgestone. With this way, the Spring framework understands that whenever the car is requested using getBean of car, so immediately it actually creates first a wheel object, and then it starts injecting this wheel object into car object. So you can see this injection. So first it understands that car is dependent on wheel object, so it creates a wheel object first and injects into the car, and then car will be given for the application. So this is the way Spring contributes for the dependency injection.